You know, a day like today is a day you only dream of. I've been worried about veterans' employment since I retired. The Army was paying about $1.5 billion a year in unemployment, and the Marine Corps was paying $400 million a year in unemployment. Well, we figured it was not 20% and not 30%, but for the combat arms, it was 60%. 6 out of 10 couldn't get a job. I just am really excited that we're here today.
And when I got out of the Coast Guard, I was an E7 aviation electrician. Now, I don't know how many people here can make a leap in their minds from aviation electrician, working on helicopters and hoisting people out of the water, to directing an entire news team and an editorial staff and managing content of a website that has over 10 million members. Now, I don't say that because I want to brag. I'm saying that because that happened because despite a poorly written resume, despite pretty much failed interviews, and despite the fact that I was an aviation electrician, Military Comm gave me a shot. And they gave me a shot based on more of the background as to what I did behind the scenes. So they took the title away and looked at it, what was beneath. Most veterans are looking to be hired by a veteran-friendly employer. Well, that's an easy marketing slogan, right? So what does it mean to be a veteran-friendly employer? Well, our experience is that you have an engaging outreach program to try to bring veterans in. You have an understanding HR staff and recruiting team who know how to find the talent behind the bad resume and the poor interview skills.
About 3 years ago, we were watching all the returning veterans coming home, and they said they couldn't get a job. And we're sitting in the center of tech in San Francisco here. And we're in 12 cities across the country. Our mission is to support returning and current veterans and connect them to the technology ecosystem. We focus on providing 3 programs in education, employment, and entrepreneurship.
The question always comes up about, well, why do we do this? What's the whole point behind addressing the issues of veterans? I mean, goodness gracious, veterans get all kinds of stuff. They got the GI Bill. They got this new enhanced GI Bill that gives them everything they want. They served in the service that they have. They got a place to live. They got a place to stay. They get paid well. These are some of the comments that come out. And there's a host of other names of people who've gone on and become CEOs, presidents of organizations, companies. And every one of them will say first and foremost that many of the responsibilities, their attention to detail, their understanding of how to get the job done right, they credit their time in the military.
Kid, you got the best job in the Marine Corps. And I said, sir? And he said, you're going to be a broadcaster. And I certainly did not say to the drill instructor what I was thinking, but it was, are you kidding me? But the truth is, they sent me to broadcast school where I learned certain skills. The biggest break of my life, second biggest, at least from a professional standpoint, was being assigned to the newsroom in Saigon of the American Forces Vietnam Network. I'm so appreciative to the military for having given me such a fantastic career.
Businesses are discovering it's a great business case. You, as veterans, as transitioning service members, bring value to the table. And across the nation, we have gaps in our workforce skills that need to be filled.
At some point, we hand them off, and they depart the Marine Corps, and they either have a job, maybe they don't have a job, but there's that continued engagement that has to happen. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that that's DOD's job necessarily, but it has to be there because there's that follow-through and that continuity of care, if you will, that we owe these young people who have volunteered to serve their nation. So that's probably an area where there is some room for improvement. There are some organizations out there right now that do that, 0800 down in San Diego, that does a tremendous job, but we just need to be better in that respect.
We find that the military experience that they have, their training that they've had makes them actually excellent, typically excellent public employees. We are engaging in a number of programs to make that transition possible. We're linking up the minimum qualifications that we have for our entry-level positions, making them more flexible.
55% of veterans, people leaving the military, are looking for a job. 45% are looking to become entrepreneurs. What are we doing to help them become entrepreneurs? Because veterans will hire veterans, because we understand who they are and what they bring to the table. So the more we invest in our veterans to becoming entrepreneurs and business people, we will accelerate that process of hiring more veterans and decelerate the unemployment process of that.
And I tell a lot of transitioning service members that are about 18 months out to 12 months out, is start filling your rucksack up with everything you possibly can, and hopefully you don't utilize all those tools. And when I applied to 202 jobs and didn't get an email or an interview, I was blown away. Prepare for battle, prepare for the biggest challenge you're ever gonna have, and hopefully it's a little firefight. You don't have to, you can get right out of there, break contact, and be good to go.
We also have those opportunities on board ship and underway. While not ideal, it's an option, and it's a one-word tool to make sure that our folks are prepared to transition.
Some of us want to go into federal government work, and there's a process for that. They put in their application, and they don't get past the first stage. The first stage is called a computer. The computer that you put in looks for keywords in your application. If you don't have those keywords in that application, it gets kicked out. You don't even get to the next level. Learning the game, okay, that's the key. You gotta learn how to play the game so you can get that opportunity, that chance to get a federal job. The other aspect is getting to the civilian world. People like me who hire people all over the world. We do work in 50 states, 4 territories, and 20 countries.
We've got the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, along with Department of Labor, VA, Small Business Administration, and the Army. And as a matter of fact, some of the other services have been involved as well to run these large-scale transition summits on the installations where large populations of transitioning soldiers and family members are going out. So those are, 100-plus companies, 1,000-plus transitioning service members. I think that's an incentive in itself.
Some people see the extremes, but rarely do they see the whole of the value of the veteran. And that's something we want to work on, and something we want to talk about tactically in how you communicate.
I help veterans find other veterans in the real world at events like this, under the premise that having that shared reality of communication, like we're talking about right now, can only be established when you're in the same room and can have a real discussion with people. And so it's important, to get people into these environments so you can have, real discussions and actually have a shared reality.
This institution here, the Marines Memorial Club, I was actually introduced, again, using connections, and I don't mean the term using in a negative way, but I was introduced to one of the founders of the firm where I'm currently working, Schaefer and Combs. Those veterans, as you get out and you think, how can I possibly do something that will fill me with a sense of purpose and meaning? Consider those sort of mission-driven organizations, entertain the nonprofit world, and I think you can probably continue your second career in life with continued purpose and meaning.
We engage veterans all the time, whether they're pilots or you have your operators or intel guys. I was a former SIGINT guy, so big data, looking at all kinds of information to make decisions under uncertainty, which is really the use of this technology.
It's helpful to try to learn the language of the environment you're going into, in terms of, because that then allows you to communicate. And if you, something simple as an online course on a business model canvas and how to understand value proposition and customer segments and channels, and then you start to intuitively apply that to yourself and how you're going to establish what's your value proposition to that company, how are you going to be of value to them.
There's an estimated 40,000 small businesses right now that are cash flow positive. The owners own their property. The average age, though, is 65, and they have no succession plan, and they're looking for people with leadership and operations experience to transition those businesses over to.
all of us here are proof that you can make it, and we're excited to hopefully share some of our learnings and knowledge.
Everybody kept telling me that what I'd been doing in the military was what I had to do on the outside, and that's not true. So that comes back to what these gentlemen have been speaking to, in that when you have the opportunity to be with an employer, to have your interview, or you're getting through that process, talk to them like you're a real person. Talk to them about your experiences and what you've done and where you want to go. Talk to them about your dreams and your aspirations.
There's tons of veterans in technology. In fact, we could go down the laundry list of why veterans excel in technology: the small team environment, the mission focus, the ability to be creative, high levels of situational awareness.
The person that called me was Chris Perry, which I met through Vets in Tech at Catherine. And they brought me in, 10-minute conversation to 3 hours. After 3 hours, they said, we want you to apply for a QA lead position. And I told them I have basic QA skills. Like, yes, I understand technology, but, and really what they, wanted from me was my organizational experience. And in software, they have this thing called Agile, right? In Agile, every week, what they do is they write down a list of what went well, what did not go so well, and 3 things that you can improve on. To me, that's an AAR. I don't know. So honestly, the Agile software experience is 100% exactly like the military. So, honestly, military folks are the best for project managers and program managers in software companies, because we know how to make these minor changes consistently to make the products perfect.
I think 5 networking conversations, either phone conversations, coffees, lunches, visits, informational interviews per week is a reasonable target. It just requires, in the case of active duty folks, it requires commander support in order to make Marines and sailors, soldiers, Coast Guardsmen, airmen available to do that sort of thing.
So what would I do if I was transitioning out? Stay in. Not gonna lie, stay in. Let me tell you why. And this is why. And I'm gonna put 2 spins on it because the panel here had some really great things to say, and I agree 100% with what they're saying. Being young and being in the Marine Corps, in the Air Force, in the Army, in the Coast Guard, you're gaining experience, 4 years. Now you can spend, honestly, the next 4 years preparing, getting your education, taking time for you to get your education, know your trade, learn other trades. This is how you become more marketable in the workplace.
Our goal is to help you succeed, and it's all part of the brother and sisterhood that we have here of being in the military. We're here to help each other out.
We in this room are not a charity case. We are a business case. If you have more veterans in your company, you will make more money. It's a fact. If you go look at the military-friendly employers list, and if you took an index fund of all those companies and look at the last 10 years, you would have made a lot of money if you had bet on that. And if you keep betting on veterans, you're going to keep making more money. And that is the thing that corporate America has to know.
Where I was a nuclear weapons specialist crawling on top of jets, putting bombs on planes, and somehow I got into marketing.
But one of the major challenges was internally educating our recruiters and our hiring managers. And that's still a challenge, but we did take on that challenge by hiring an outside firm, which was veteran-owned.
We don't work on preferences, we don't work on quotas. We go to military bases, but we're looking for the very best folks. And that helps sell it internally, because I'm not asking any manager to compromise their standards. If anything, I'm telling them that we're going to put them in touch with better people. And that I think is how you get to a longer standing, more robust program, is you produce value for the company. And that's what we've been doing so far, and it's going pretty well.
A lot of the companies I've worked with have those landing pages. They do support hiring veterans, but that page for them is a box check. What you really need to find out is you need to go into the news. You need to Google a company. You need to Google veterans. Everyone knows how to do a search now. You need to go to LinkedIn, see what kind of organizations that company is partnered with. If you really want to see if a company's military friendly, they'll be in the news for what they're doing, not just having a page online.
One of the men from Tyson's Chicken. It's in Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas, but it's one of the actual sons in the corporation of the Tyson family name. Real nice gentleman. Came up there, said hello to me, spent hours talking with all the young sailors up there on the bridge, understanding what they did for the ship, the safe navigation. And I said, sir, what are you taking away? And here's what's important, ladies and gentlemen. And he was talking about each and every one of you who are younger than me, and that's virtually everybody in the room. He says, we'll get a young man or a young woman, and usually not a veteran, he says, into my company. And we'll recognize that that person, he or she, has leadership potential, and we'll put them in a management training program that takes about 5 years before we ever really put them in a leadership position. He says, I saw 19 and 20-year-olds making life and death decisions. Making life and death decisions on a routine basis and making it look easy. He says, if I can get a young veteran in my company, I can put them in a leadership position within a year. Some of you out there are going to start your own company. Some corporal is going to start his or her own company. Some lieutenant is getting ready to get out is going to start his or her own company. Some admiral, when he retires, wants to work for your company, so please go ahead and start that, okay?